Even if they weren't told beforehand, anyone would suspect that The Big Knife was originally a stage play. Director Robert Aldrich doesn't even try to open up the story. He understood that confining it within Charlie Castle's house was symbolic of his entrapment. Charlie has no defense against the users, hustlers, and slave drivers who crash his sanctuary to get a piece of him. Jack Palance is good in the role, but I can't help thinking how perfect the part was for John Garfield, who originated it on stage. Garfield's years in Hollywood tracked much closer to Charlie Castle's experience. Palance, by contrast, had only been making pictures for 5 years. But of course, Garfield was gone by the time they made the film version, all the myriad pressures of his life stopping his heart at only 39 years of age. The hit-and-run accident Stanley Hoff uses as leverage against Charlie was based on a long-running rumor in Hollywood that Clark Gable had killed a woman in 1933 while driving drunk, and that MGM's legendary fixer, Eddie Mannix, had managed to bribe someone else into taking the rap. Well, that someone else was supposedly young screenwriter John Huston. This, of course, is a classic example of Hollywood's facility at twisting the truth to produce a better story. Gable did have his occasional issues with driving under the influence, but he was lucky never to have hit a living thing. Same with Huston, until a fateful night in 1933, when driving down Sunset Boulevard, he struck and killed a dancer named Tosca Rullian. Huston was cleared of manslaughter charges when the court determined that he wasn't drinking, wasn't speeding, and that Rullian had jaywalked into the street. But as time went on, the rumor mill conflated these incidents, and people were convinced that Eddie Mannix had Huston take the rap for Gable in order to protect MGM's financial interest in its rising star. Refashioning the truth to fit the story you want to tell is a long-standing Hollywood tradition. Just look at the recent miniseries Feud, which became a hit by focusing its first iteration on the rivalry between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford as they made Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Well, Robert Aldrich was the director of that film, and as written by Ryan Murphy and is played by Alfred Molina, he's depicted as a hapless hack with little or no control over the production or his stars' egos. What a load of rubbish. By the time I was a sentient cinephile in the early 1970s, Robert Aldrich was revered as one of the best directors in Hollywood, one of the few who was admired both as an auteur and as a guy who could make massive pop culture hits like The Dirty Dozen and The Longest Yard. Aldrich's backstory is remarkable. He was born to an affluent East Coast family that was deeply entwined in the nation's highest levels of banking and government. The Aldrich family was related through marriage to the all-powerful Rockefellers. But as a young man during the Depression, Aldrich turned his back on his family's wealth and later took an entry-level job as a clerk at RKO Pictures. He steadily worked his way up through the studio during the 40s, learning every facet of movie making firsthand, and eventually becoming one of the most sought-after assistant directors in the business, collaborating with everyone from Jean Renoir to Charlie Chaplin. Once he began directing his own films in the 50s, Aldrich never looked back, becoming one of the most successful independents in town. He made classics in virtually every genre: Veracruz, Kiss Me Deadly, Autumn Leaves, Baby Jane, Flight of the Phoenix, The Killing of Sister George, Ulzana's Raid, Emperor of the North Pole, and lots more. Next week, I'll be back here at Bar 355 with one of the most daringly inventive films of the noir era, Dark Passage, starring Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall in the third co-starring vehicle constructed for them at Warner Brothers. Until then, see you in the shadows.